Good afternoon people, and welcome back to another video. Because it's time to talk about snacking, I feel like the only appropriate place to do that is in my kitchen, so here we are. I am going to need a bigger tripod if I'm going to stand up through this. Can you tell I'm not a professional at this? Be right back. Right, now all of that faff is over and done with, we can start the video. Today is the second instalment in my New Year's resolution series, and if you're new, that's where every month for this year I'm going to take on a new New Year's resolution. So I'm either going to give something up, try something new, start a new habit, whatever it is. So I'll be making 12 of these throughout this year, and this is number 2, which is February's. And you might remember that I said in February, what did I actually? So I'm planning on doing a month of no snacking. I am a well-renowned snacker. I always have been. I've always been a big grazer. I've always been one to pick up food in between meals, and trying to eat 3 meals a day or even 2 meals a day, like when I did intermittent fasting, it's just never really worked for me. But having said that, in my mind, there is snacking that works with you and snacking that doesn't work with you. I hope I didn't mislead you too much with this title of this video, because I didn't only eat 2 or 3 meals a day throughout the course of this month. I actually planned to eat 5 times a day. So depending on how you define snacking, you might be able to argue that I didn't really give it up. So what is a snack? According to one paper I found on the internet, which is good enough for me, there is no scientific consensus of what constitutes a snack, either as an eating occasion or as a snack food. This same paper concluded that a snack generally makes up less than 10% of your overall daily energy needs, implying to me if it's more than 10% in one sitting, it's then a meal rather than a snack. So arguably, up until now, the two snacks a day that I've planned in are actually small meals rather than snacks. But if you feel like arguing with me about it, then I will meet you in the comments. Now, I've also made it fairly clear on this channel that I am on a weight loss journey. I've had a really tough week hitting my deficit calories this week, which I've been trying to do, and I think I mentioned it in my last video as well. I really struggled the last couple of weeks. As of this morning, actually, I now have 10 kilos to go to my goal weight, having already lost about 17. And to help me get there, I am using calorie tracking to make sure I stay in a calorie deficit. So I follow what you might describe as a flexible dieting approach. And one of the reasons I wanted to try giving up snacking is if I leave this unchecked with no barriers, I will generally consume more calories from snacks than I will from like the amount of calories I eat at dinner time. So I could have gone about this 2 ways. I could have either just completely, tried to avoid snacking altogether and had 3 bigger meals in a day, or I can do the other approach, which is what I did, and I basically ate 5 small meals throughout the day. And I didn't want to specifically try and give up snacking altogether, because I don't think there's really inherently anything wrong with snacking. It's just more that when I don't plan it out, it doesn't help me to meet my goals. Now I've done that roundup of snacking, let's come back to my challenge. And as I say, throughout February I plan to eat 4 to 5 times a day. And it's not because I think there's anything better or worse about it, it's just more that I know, for me, that's what works best and my eating habits and patterns. And for the most part, I did stick to it pretty well. The last week of February was the 4th week of a calorie deficit for me though, and I found it so difficult that week to stick to my kind of planned food. I definitely went off plan way more times that week, and usually through snacks. So can't say I did this month completely perfectly. I had got used to eating like 5 times a day by this point, so maybe the fact that I just got used to it didn't help. But I'd also dropped my fat intake a little bit in favour of carbs, and I do wonder how much that had to do with it as well. So changing things up slightly this week. But to be honest, up until that point, and about halfway through the month, I honestly thought I was going to need to scrap the whole premise of this video, because it was proving so easy and so unproblematic that I wasn't sure I was going to have anything to say. So in terms of how I ended up being as successful as I was, I think there's a couple of different ways you could go about it if your aim is to try and cut down on snacking. One way of doing it is just to eat larger meals so that you're not hungry in between meals, and therefore you can just eat your meals and be done with it. And I think if you are tending to snack out of genuine hunger, that would probably work. But you also maybe need to look at the time in between meals, and maybe have 4 small meals rather than 3 meals. If you've got a lot of time between lunch and dinner, eat an earlier dinner or have another meal in between there. The second option is to plan your snacks out in advance. If you're very habit driven with eating, or very time driven, which I definitely am, then this can be a really useful tool. And this might also help if you tend to cave in the moment, when you're hungry and you just eat whatever's in front of you. Planning your snacks out in advance, and even preparing snacks in advance, that will be really helpful. And then the last thing, which is essentially what I did, is you can just have 4 or 5 smaller meals throughout the day. Definitely if you find yourself wanting to eat a lot after dinner, not necessarily because you're hungry, but just because you feel like you need to eat something, planning to eat something during that time is a good way of getting around that, because you're then planning for success rather than trying to fight against something that's very difficult to fight against. That's all for February's resolution, and for March I've decided that I am going to take a slight sidestep from your typical health and fitness and look at more mental health. And to do that, I'm going to start meditating every morning and journaling every evening. Today is the 2nd of March, so I ticked off day 1 and I've done that. So I'm going into day 2 now, but I will keep you posted on how that's gone at the end of March. I hope you have a really lovely week, and I will see you soon.